The diamond necklace felt heavy against her throat, but not nearly as crushing as the silence that fell over the ballroom. Emma stood alone, clutching a glass of champagne that trembled ever so slightly, while across the room, the man who had vowed to love her forever was laughing. Liam wasn't just smiling. He was parading a woman half her age, draped in red silk, introducing her as the new Mrs. Bennet. The whispers of New York's elite were like venomous snakes, but they didn't know that the most powerful man in the room, a ghost from a past no one knew existed, was walking through the doors at that exact moment. And he wasn't looking for a business deal. He was looking for his wife. And it wasn't the woman in red. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel in New York City smelled of old money, expensive lilies, and betrayal. It was the annual obscenity known as the Kensington Charity Gala, an event where the city's wolves, dressed in sheep's clothing, specifically bespoke tuxedos and haute couture gowns, to donate tax-deductible millions while stabbing each other in the back. Emma stood near a towering arrangement of white hydrangeas, trying to make herself invisible. It was a skill she had perfected over the last 3 years of her marriage to Liam Bennet. In a room full of peacocks, Emma was a mourning dove. She wore a simple, elegant, midnight blue velvet gown that hugged her slender frame, high-necked and long-sleeved. It was beautiful, but compared to the sheer, crystal-encrusted monstrosities around her, it whispered rather than screamed. "I didn't think you'd actually have the nerve to show up, Elle." The voice was smooth, familiar, and caused a physical ache in the center of her chest. Emma didn't turn immediately. She took a slow sip of her sparkling water, fortifying herself, before pivoting to face her ex-husband. Liam Bennet looked good. It was the unfairness of the universe that moral rot didn't show up on the skin. He was tanned from a recent month in street tropez, his sandy hair perfectly coiffed, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass. But he wasn't alone. Clinging to his arm like a decorative vine was a woman who looked like she had walked straight out of a lingerie catalog. She was blonde, bubbly, and wearing a dress made of crimson silk that seemed to be held together by hope and double-sided tape. "Hello, Liam," Emma said, her voice steady. She refused to give him the satisfaction of a tremor. "Emma, you remember Sophia?" Liam smirked, pulling the young woman closer. "My wife?" The word hung in the air between them, sharp and violent. Wife. It had only been 6 months since the divorce papers were signed. 6 months since Liam had told Emma that she was too boring, too plain, and utterly uninspiring for a man of his rising stature in the tech world. He needed a trophy, he had said, not a librarian. Sophia giggled, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, hi, Emma. Liam told me you might be here. It's so brave of you to come alone." I told Liam, if I were her, I'd just stay home and knit. But good for you. The condescension was thick enough to choke on. Emma looked at Sophia, not with anger, but with a strange kind of pity. Sophia didn't know. She didn't know that Liam was leveraged to the hilt, that his tech empire was a house of cards built on loans from his father-in-law, loans that had dried up the moment he kicked Emma out. "Enjoy the evening, Sophia," Emma said softly. "The champagne is excellent, I hear." "It is," Liam cut in, his eyes narrowing. He stepped forward, lowering his voice so only Emma could hear. "Look at you, still wearing that depressing blue. You look like a governess. I did you a favor, Emma. You didn't belong in this world. You never did. You're just background noise." He gestured to the room around them, the glittering chandeliers, the titans of industry, the movie stars. "This is where the players are. And you? You're just the ex-wife of a successful man. That's the only reason anyone even let you in the door." Emma's grip on her clutch tightened. "Is that what you think, Liam?" "I know it," he sneered. "Go home, Emma. Before you embarrass yourself further, I'm about to announce the merger with the monolithic Kincaid Group. When that news hits, I'll be the king of this city. And I don't want my dour ex-wife lurking in the corners, bringing down the vibe." The Kincaid Group. Emma felt a sudden, sharp urge to laugh, but she swallowed it. The Kincaid Group was the white whale of the business world, a private equity firm so exclusive, so impossibly wealthy, that its CEO was practically a myth. Rumor had it, the CEO never gave interviews, never appeared on magazine covers, and ruthlessly dismantled anyone who crossed him. Liam had been bragging for months that he was close to closing a deal with them. He believed his charm could conquer anything. "I think I'll stay," Emma said, a new steeliness entering her tone. "I'm waiting for someone." Liam threw his head back and laughed. It was a loud, barking sound that drew the attention of the nearby guests. "Waiting for someone? Who? Your cat sitter? Please, Emma. No one in this room is interested in used goods." Sophia swatted his arm playfully. "Liam, stop. You're being mean. Maybe she found a nice accountant or something." "Excuse me." A deep, resonant voice rumbled from behind Liam, interrupting the cruelty. The air in the immediate vicinity seemed to drop 10 degrees. The chatter at the nearby tables ceased instantly. It was the kind of silence that commanded absolute obedience. Liam turned around, annoyance flashing on his face at being interrupted, but the expression froze and shattered instantly. Standing there was a man who looked like he had been carved out of granite and dressed by the gods. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that strained the fabric of a tuxedo that likely cost more than Liam's car. His hair was dark, swept back with careless precision, and his eyes were a piercing, icy gray. He radiated power, not the desperate climbing power that Liam exuded, but true, ancient power, the kind that didn't need to shout. It was Augustin King, the Augustan King, the man who had bought a small European country's debt just because he wanted to build a villa there. The elusive billionaire who made Wall Street tremble. Liam's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. He practically shoved Sophia aside to extend a sweating hand. "Mr. King," Liam stammered, his arrogance evaporating instantly. "I didn't know you would be attending. I'm Liam Bennett, CEO of Bennett Tech. My people have been trying to reach your people about the merger proposal." Augustin King didn't take the hand. He didn't even look at it. His cold gray eyes swept over Liam as if he were a smudge on a pristine window, then moved to Sophia, dismissing her with a single glance. Finally, his gaze landed on Emma. The transformation was instantaneous. The ice in his eyes melted into something molten, something intense, and terrifyingly possessive. He walked past Liam, ignoring him completely, and stopped directly in front of Emma. The entire ballroom was watching now. Whispers of, "Is that Augustin King? And what is he doing?" rippled through the crowd like a wave. Liam, desperate to regain control of the narrative, stepped up beside Augustin. "Mr. King, I apologize. This is just my ex-wife. She was just leaving. She's not really part of—" "Be quiet," Augustine said. He didn't shout. He didn't look at Liam. He simply spoke 2 words with such absolute authority that Liam's jaw snapped shut with an audible click. Augustin reached out, his large hand gently cupping Emma's cheek. The gesture was so intimate, so tender, that a collective gasp went through the onlookers. Emma leaned into his touch, her eyes fluttering shut for a brief second before she looked up at him. "You're late," Emma whispered. A rare, devastatingly handsome smile curved Augustin's lips. "Traffic was murder, my love, and I had to stop to pick up your actual gift." He reached into his tuxedo jacket and pulled out a small, velvet box. He didn't open it. He simply handed it to her. "Augustin?" Liam sputtered from the sidelines, his face turning a sickly shade of pale. You know her?" Augustin finally turned to look at Liam. The warmth was gone, replaced by a gaze that could strip paint. "Know her?" Augustin repeated, his voice carrying clearly across the silent ballroom. He wrapped a protective arm around Emma's waist, pulling her flush against his side. "I don't just know her, Mr. Bennett." He looked out at the crowd, raising his voice slightly so that every socialite, every CEO, and every gossip columnist could hear him clearly. "Ladies and gentlemen," Augustin announced, his voice ringing with pride, "I believe there has been a misunderstanding about the guest list tonight. This is not merely Emma Bennett, the cast-off ex-wife." He looked down at Emma, adoration plain on his face. "Allow me to introduce you to the chairwoman of the Kincaid Group, the owner of the very building we are standing in, and the love of my life, Mrs. Emma King. The silence that followed was deafening. It was the sound of 100 paradigms shifting at once. Liam Bennett dropped his champagne glass. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot, but no one looked at him. All eyes were on Emma, who stood tall in the circle of Augustine's arm, no longer the discarded dove, but a queen finally claiming her throne. "Hello, darling," Emma said to Augustine, a small, mischievous smile playing on her lips. "I think we have some business to discuss with Mr. Bennett." The sound of Liam Bennett's champagne glass shattering was the punctuation mark on the death of his social standing. For a heartbeat, the room remained frozen, a tableau of shock and awe. Then, the whispers exploded into a roar. Liam stood amidst the shards of crystal, his face a mask of disbelief. He looked from Augustine King, the titan of industry, who could buy and sell Liam's entire existence before breakfast, to Emma, his Emma, the woman he had accused of wearing cardigan sweaters to hide her lack of personality. She didn't look plain now. Standing next to Augustine, she looked lethal. "This is a joke," Liam stammered, his voice cracking. He looked around wildly, seeking an ally, but finding only amused contempt on the faces of the onlookers. "Emma, tell them this is some sick prank. You're nobody." Augustine's arm tightened around Emma, his expression darkening like a thunderhead. He took a step forward, and Liam physically recoiled, nearly tripping over the hem of Sophia's red dress. "One more word," Augustine said, his voice low and dangerous, "and I will ensure that the only thing you manage in this city is a hot dog stand, and even then, I'll buy the sidewalk and evict you." Sophia, whose survival instincts were far sharper than her husband's, abruptly unhooked her arm from Liam's. She took a distinct step away from him. "You said she was a broke librarian," Sophia hissed at Liam, her voice shrill enough to be heard by the surrounding circle. "You said she was living in a studio apartment in Queens." "She was," Liam yelled, sweat beading on his forehead. "She drove a Honda Civic. She clipped coupons." Emma laughed softly. It was a rich, melodic sound that seemed to dance through the tension. "I drove a Civic because I liked it, Liam, and I clipped coupons because I despise waste. Unlike you, who spent our entire marriage trying to buy credibility with money you didn't have." She turned to Augustine, her eyes softening. "Shall we go? The air in here has suddenly become very stale." "After you, Mrs. King," Augustine murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. As they turned to leave, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. Photographers who had been banned from the event, but lurked at the perimeter, began snapping photos frantically. The flashes blinded the room, capturing the image that would be on every tabloid cover by morning, the King of Wall Street and his hidden queen, leaving the ruins of her ex-husband behind. Outside, the cool night air of Central Park South was a relief. A sleek, black Rolls-Royce Phantom idled at the curb. A driver in full livery held the door open. As the heavy door thudded shut, sealing them into the quiet, leather-scented sanctuary of the car, Emma let out a long, shaky breath. She slumped slightly against the seat, the adrenaline finally fading. Augustine was there instantly. He pulled her into his lap, not caring about the wrinkles in his suit or the velvet of her gown. His large hands rubbed her back in soothing circles. "You were magnificent," he whispered into her hair. "Did you see his face? It looked like he'd swallowed a lemon whole." Emma rested her head on his shoulder, tracing the line of his jaw with her finger. It felt cruel, just a little bit. "Cruelty is necessary when dealing with parasites," Augustine said firmly. "He drained you for 3 years, Emma. He took your kindness, your patience, and your love, and he threw it back in your face because he wanted more sparkle. He didn't realize he was holding a diamond because he was too busy looking for glitter." Emma sighed, looking out the tinted window as the city lights blurred by. "I just wanted to be normal, Xander. That's why I never told him about the Kincaid inheritance. That's why I used my mother's maiden name. I wanted someone to love me, not the bank account, not the connections. I thought Liam was that person." "He was a fool," Augustine growled. but his foolishness was my fortune. He lifted her chin, forcing her to look at him. The intensity in his gray eyes was overwhelming. When I found you in that coffee shop 4 months ago, Augustin said, his voice dropping to a husky register, you were crying over a scone. You looked like your world had ended. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know you were the heir to the Kincaid fortune. I just knew that whoever had made you cry was going to pay for it. Emma smiled, remembering. It had been the day the divorce was finalized. She had been sitting in a small cafe in Brooklyn, sobbing quietly. Augustin King, a man who rarely set foot in Brooklyn, had walked in to escape a sudden downpour and a flat tire on his limousine. He had sat across from her, handed her a silk handkerchief, and simply asked, "Who do I need to destroy?" Number 4. Who is Az? They had talked for hours. She hadn't told him her real name then, just Emma. He hadn't told her he was a billionaire, just August. It wasn't until 3 dates later, when he tried to impress her with a reservation at a restaurant she actually owned, that the truth came out. We moved fast, Emma whispered. People will say it's a rebound. Let them talk, Augustin said, capturing her hand and kissing her knuckles. We know the truth. We know that we've lived a lifetime in these 4 months. And besides, tomorrow is going to be a very busy day for you, Madam Chairwoman. Emma's expression hardened. Yes, the meeting. Liam thinks he's coming in to sign a merger, Augustine said, a predatory glint in his eye. He doesn't know that the Bennett Tech board has already been in secret talks with Kincaid Group for weeks. They're tired of his spending. They're tired of his volatility. He's going to lose everything, Emma said, stating a fact. He lost everything the day he signed those divorce papers, Augustin corrected. Tomorrow is just the paperwork. The car turned onto the private drive of the Dakota building. Augustin looked at his wife, the woman who had hidden her light for so long. Are you ready to take the reins, Emma? No more hiding. No more pretending to be small so others can feel big. Emma sat up straighter, the vulnerability vanishing, replaced by the steel backbone of a woman raised to run empires. I'm ready, she said. Let's burn it down. Monday morning in Manhattan arrived with a gray, relentless drizzle, matching the mood inside the headquarters of Bennett Tech. But Liam Bennett didn't notice the rain. He was running on a manic energy, fueled by denial and 3 double espressos. He paced his office, barking orders at his assistant, a terrified young man named Kevin. Get the flowers sent to Emma's apartment, no. Find out where she's staying, Liam snapped. And get a press release drafted. Spin the thing at the gala. Say it was. Say it was performance art. Or a misunderstanding. Just fix it. Sir, Kevin squeaked, holding an iPad like a shield. Mr. King's legal team sent a cease and desist regarding mentions of Mrs. King, and the Kincaid Group meeting is in 1 hour. Good, Liam said, smoothing his tie. He was wearing his lucky navy suit. He had convinced himself that Saturday night had been a hallucination, or perhaps a test. Yes, a test. Augustine King was testing his resolve. Emma was just a pawn King was using to negotiate better terms. There was no way Emma, his mousy, coupon-clipping Emma, was actually the chairwoman of Kincaid. It was impossible. I'll smooth everything over at the meeting, Liam said, checking his reflection. Once I sign this merger, I'll be untouchable. King will have to respect me then. He grabbed his briefcase and stormed out, ignoring the pitying looks from his own employees. The Kincaid Group headquarters was a fortress of glass and steel in the financial district, a building that seemed to pierce the clouds. Security was tight. Liam was escorted not to the usual conference rooms, but to the penthouse boardroom, a space reserved for decisions that changed the GDP of small nations. Liam walked in, chest puffed out, expecting to see a team of lawyers and perhaps a representative. Instead, he found the room empty, save for 3 people. At the head of the long mahogany table sat Emma. She was wearing a white power suit that looked sharp enough to draw blood. Her hair was pulled back in a severe, elegant bun. She was reading a file and didn't look up when he entered. To her right sat Augustin King, leaning back in his chair, with the relaxed posture of a lion watching a gazelle limp by. To her left was an older man, with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses, Arthur Pendleton, the most feared corporate attorney in New York. "You," Liam breathed, the denial finally shattering. "Sit down, Liam," Emma said. Her voice was cool, detached. She finally looked up, her eyes empty of the warmth he remembered. "Emma, look," Liam started, walking toward the table, putting on his best charming smile. "I know Saturday was crazy. I know you're upset, but let's not mix business with our personal history. This merger is good for both of us. Bennett Tech has the algorithm, Kincaid has the capital. We're a dream team. There is no merger," Emma said flatly. Liam froze. "What?" "There is no merger," she repeated. She slid a thick folder across the table toward him. "This is a notification of acquisition." "Acquisition?" Liam laughed nervously. "I haven't agreed to sell." "You don't have to," Arthur Pendleton interjected, his voice dry as dust. "As of this morning, Kincaid Group has acquired 51% of Bennett Tech's outstanding shares. We bought the debt your company owes to Silicon Valley Bank, and we bought the shares your board members were all too happy to offload." "My board?" Liam whispered. "They wouldn't." "They did," Augustin spoke up. "Turns out, they were quite unhappy with your use of company funds. $200,000 for a week in street tropez? $50,000 for a diamond bracelet for a consultant named Sophia? That's embezzlement, Liam." Liam collapsed into the chair opposite them. He felt like the floor was dissolving. "Emma," he pleaded, switching tactics. He looked at her with wide, wet eyes. Please, you know me. I made mistakes. But we were married. We loved each other. Don't do this. Don't take my company. It's my life." Emma stood up. She walked slowly around the table until she was standing right next to him. For a second, Liam thought she might hug him. "You're right, Liam. It is your life," she said softly. "Just like I was your wife. And do you remember what you told me when you asked for the divorce?" Liam swallowed hard. "You said I was an anchor," Emma recited. "You said I was dragging you down. You said you needed to cut the dead weight so you could fly." She leaned down, her face inches from his. "I'm just helping you fly, Liam. I'm taking the heavy burden of this company off your shoulders. You're fired." "You can't fire me. I'm the founder," Liam screamed, jumping up. "Read the bylaws," Arthur said calmly. "Majority shareholder can remove the CEO for cause. Embezzlement is cause." "I'll sue you," Liam shouted, his face purple. "I'll drag your name through the mud. I'll tell everyone you're a fraud, a liar." Augustin stood up. He didn't rush. He simply unfolded his height and walked over to Liam. He towered over the smaller man. "You will do nothing," Augustin said, "because if you say one word to the press, if you even breathe Emma's name in public again, I will release the forensic accounting report to the district attorney. You won't just be broke, Liam. You'll be in federal prison." Liam looked at Augustin, then at Emma. He saw no mercy in either of them. He realized, with a sickening thud in his stomach, that he had never really known Emma at all. He had fallen in love with a reflection of himself in her eyes, and now that the mirror was broken, he was nothing. "Security," Emma said into the intercom on the table. "Please escort Mr. Bennett out of the building and make sure he returns his badge." 2 large guards entered. Liam didn't fight them. He looked like a deflated balloon. As he was dragged toward the door, he looked back at Emma one last time. "Why?" he croaked. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" Emma looked down at her wedding ring, the massive diamond Augustin had given her, not the tiny clouded chip Liam had bought her. "Because, Liam," she said sadly, "I wanted to know if you loved me, and you gave me your answer." The doors closed, leaving Emma and Augustin alone in the silence of the boardroom. Emma let out a long breath and sat back down, putting her head in her hands. "Are you okay?" Augustin asked, moving to her side immediately. "I thought it would feel better," she admitted. "Revenge. I thought it would taste sweet, but it just tastes ash." "That's because you're a good person, Emma," Augustin said, rubbing her shoulders. "But the rot is gone now. You've cut it out. Now you can heal." "He's not going to stop," Emma said, looking up with worry in her eyes. "I know him. He's a narcissist. When he's cornered, he doesn't surrender, he bites. Augustine's eyes narrowed. Let him try. I have teeth too. Emma was right. Liam Bennett was not a man who accepted defeat with dignity. 3 days after his unceremonious removal from his own company, Liam was sitting in a dive bar in Hell's Kitchen, nursing a cheap whiskey. His credit cards had been frozen. Sophia had left him the moment the news broke, taking the jewelry and the car. He was staying on a friend's couch, a friend who was rapidly losing patience. He stared at the TV screen above the bar. It was showing a news segment about the power couple of the century. Emma and Augustine were shown walking out of a charity event, looking radiant and untouchable. Hatred, hot and black, curled in Liam's gut. She had played him, she had made a fool of him, she had the world at her feet, and she had watched him struggle for 3 years, laughing behind his back. Rough night? A man slid onto the bar stool next to him. He was older, perhaps in his 60s, wearing a trench coat that looked expensive but dated. He had a face like a crumpled map, and eyes that were too sharp. Beat it, Liam muttered. I saw the news, the man said, signaling the bartender for 2 more drinks. Liam Bennett, the tech genius who got robbed by his wife. Liam turned to look at him. Who are you? My name is Victor Draven, the stranger said. He extended a hand. The skin was dry and papery. Liam frowned. The name sounded familiar. Draven. You're the real estate guy. The one who lost the Midtown bid to the Kincaid Group last year. Details. Victor waved a hand dismissively. We have a common enemy, Mr. Bennett, Augustine King, and, by extension, your lovely ex-wife. Liam took the drink the bartender set down. What do you want? I want to see King fall, Victor said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He ruined me, cost me millions, humiliated me in front of the city council. I've been waiting for a weak spot, and then you fell into my lap. I have nothing, Liam spat. They took my company. They threaten me with jail if I talk. Jail is for poor people, Victor chuckled darkly, and for people who don't have leverage. Tell me, Liam, in 3 years of marriage, you must have learned something about Emma? Everyone has secrets, even saints. Liam thought back. He thought about the quiet nights, the boring dinners. Emma was so private. She never talked about her family. She never. Wait, a memory surfaced. It was from their 2nd year of marriage. Emma had been sick, a high fever, delirious. She had thrashed in bed, crying out about the fire, and don't let them take him. When she woke up, she had been terrified. She made Liam swear never to mention it. She said it was just a nightmare, but she had a scar, a small, jagged burn scar on her lower back that she always kept covered. She told him it was from a cooking accident, but there was something else. A box. She has a safety deposit box, Liam said slowly. At a private bank in Zurich. She went there once a year, alone. She said it was to visit a specialist for her migraines, but I found the bank receipt in her luggage once. Victor's eyes lit up. A secret Swiss account? Now that is interesting. Why would a librarian need a Swiss vault? I don't know, Liam said, but whatever is in there. She didn't want the Kincaid family to know about it. She was terrified of her family finding her. That's why she used a fake name. Maybe she stole something, Victor mused. Or maybe she's hiding a child, or a past marriage. Whatever it is, if we find it, we can destroy her image. And if we destroy her, we break King. Victor pulled a card from his pocket and slid it to Liam. It was black with a single phone number in gold. I have resources, Liam. Hackers, investigators, people who can open doors that are supposed to stay shut. You give me everything you know about that bank account, dates, codes, anything she might have written down, and I will get you your company back, and I'll get you revenge. Liam looked at the card. He looked at the TV screen, where Emma was smiling that perfect, serene smile. She keeps a journal, Liam whispered. She wrote in it every night. She left it behind when I kicked her out. It's in a storage unit with the rest of her junk. Victor smiled. It was a smile full of teeth. Well then, Mr. Bennett, let's go to storage. Meanwhile, in the penthouse of the Kincaid building, Emma woke up with a start. The sheets were tangled around her legs. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. Emma? Augustin was awake instantly, shifting to turn on the bedside lamp. The golden light flooded the room, chasing away the shadows. What is it? A nightmare? Emma sat up, clutching her chest. I have a bad feeling, Xander. A really bad feeling. It's just the stress, Augustine said, pulling her into his arms. The takeover, the media frenzy. It's over now. No, Emma shook her head. I forgot something. When I left, when Liam threw me out, I left a box of books, my old journals. Do they contain anything dangerous? Emma looked at him, her eyes wide with fear. They contain the truth about what happened the night my parents died, the fire at the Kincaid estate. The official report said it was an accident, but I saw who started it. Augustin went rigid. You never told me this. I was afraid, she whispered. The man who did it. He's powerful. He was my father's rival. If he knows I remember, if he knows I wrote it down. Who was it, Emma? Augustin demanded, his protective instincts flaring like a supernova. Victor Draven, she breathed. The name hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Augustin grabbed his phone from the nightstand. We need to get those journals, now. But as he dialed his security chief, across the city, the padlock on a dusty storage unit was being snapped open with a pair of bolt cutters. Liam Bennett and Victor Draven stood in the doorway, staring at a stack of cardboard boxes. Start digging, Victor commanded. We're about to rewrite history. The storage facility in Queens was a labyrinth of corrugated metal and flickering fluorescent lights. The air smelled of dust and abandoned dreams. Inside Unit 402, the beam of a flashlight cut through the gloom, illuminating swirling motes of dust. Liam Bennett was on his knees, digging through a plastic bin marked college. He felt ridiculous. He was a tech CEO, or he had been, until 48 hours ago, and now he was rummaging through his ex-wife's old textbooks and winter coats like a common thief. Found it yet? Victor Draven asked from the doorway. He wasn't helping. He stood, keeping watch, tapping a leather-gloved finger against his thigh. I think so, Liam muttered. He pulled out a worn, leather-bound notebook. It was navy blue, the cover scratched and faded. He recognized it. Emma used to write in this every night during their first year of marriage. She would curl up on the window seat, pen scratching furiously, and whenever he asked what she was writing, she'd smile that shy smile and say, just thoughts. Liam opened the book. The pages were filled with Emma's neat, looping handwriting. He flipped past pages of mundane observations, grocery lists, notes about the weather, sketches of birds, until he reached the dates corresponding to the fire. 10 years ago, the handwriting changed. It became jagged, erratic, pressed so hard the ink bled through the paper. November 14th. The smell won't go away. Smoke and burning pine. I close my eyes and I see them screaming. But I see him too. I know what the police said. They said it was a faulty wire. They said it was an accident. They are lying. I saw the car parked by the tree line, a black sedan. I saw the man walking away as the first flames licked up the porch. He stopped. He lit a cigar. He watched my house burn like it was a bonfire. I saw his face, the scar above his eyebrow, the cold, dead eyes. It was Victor Draven. He killed them. He wanted the land for the casino project. Dad wouldn't sell, so Victor took it. Liam stopped reading. The blood drained from his face, leaving him cold and clammy. He wasn't holding a list of hidden assets. He wasn't holding proof of a secret affair. He was holding a witness testimony to a double homicide. What does it say? Victor's voice was suddenly right behind him. Liam slammed the book shut, his heart hammering against his ribs. He turned to look at Victor. For the first time, he really looked at the man. He saw the expensive coat, the polished shoes, and the faint, white line of a scar just above his left eyebrow. It's nothing, Liam stammered, standing up and trying to hide the book behind his back. Just poetry, bad poetry. We should go. Victor smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It didn't reach his eyes. You're a terrible liar, Liam. That's why you lost your company. Give me the book. No, Liam said, taking a step back. You killed them, her parents. They were obstacles, Victor said, his voice terrifyingly casual, just like you are becoming. Give me the book, and I might let you walk out of here. You used me, Liam whispered, the reality of his situation crashing down on him. You didn't want to expose Emma. You wanted to find this. You knew she had seen you. She was a child, hiding in the bushes. Victor sneered, stepping closer. I thought she was traumatized, that she didn't remember. But when she resurfaced as Mrs. King, I got nervous. Memories have a way of coming back. Now, hand it over. Victor pulled a gun from his coat pocket. A sleek, silenced pistol. Liam froze. He was a coward. He knew that about himself. He liked comfort. He liked safety. But looking at the gun, he realized that he had crossed a line from which there was no return. Before Liam could decide whether to fight or fold, tires screeched outside. Heavy doors slammed. Liam! It was Emma's voice. Victor cursed. He lunged forward, snatching the book from Liam's frozen hands. He struck Liam across the face with the pistol, sending him crashing into the metal wall of the unit. Stay down if you want to live, Victor hissed. He turned and ran toward the back exit of the facility, disappearing into the shadows just as Augustin King and Emma burst into the corridor. Augustin looked like a god of war, flanked by 2 armed security guards. Emma was right beside him, her face pale but determined. They found Liam slumped on the floor, blood trickling from his temple. Liam? Emma gasped, rushing to him. Despite everything, the betrayal, the insults, the cruelty, her first instinct was still kindness. Liam looked up at her through swollen eyes. He has it, he rasped. The journal. He knows you saw him, Elle. He knows you saw him start the fire. Augustin hauled Liam up by his collar, pinning him against the wall. Where did he go? Back exit, Liam coughed. He has a gun. Augustin, he's going to kill her. He killed her parents. Augustin dropped Liam, his expression one of pure, terrifying rage. He turned to his head of security. Lock down the city. I want every private airfield, every train station, every highway watched. Victor Draven does not leave New York tonight. He turned to Emma, grabbing her shoulders. You are going to the safe house. Now. No, Emma said. She pulled away, her eyes blazing. I spent 10 years hiding from that memory. I spent 3 years hiding my true self from this idiot. She gestured to Liam. And I am done hiding. Victor has the proof. If he destroys that book, justice is dead. He won't destroy it yet, Liam said, wiping blood from his lip. He needs it. As long as the book exists, he has leverage over you. But if he destroys it, it's just your word against his. He's going to use it to make a deal. What kind of deal? Augustin asked. He wants the Kincaid land, Liam said. The land the casino was supposed to be built on. It's the only thing he ever cared about. Emma straightened her spine. Then we give him what he wants. Or at least, we make him think we will. The meeting was set for midnight at the unfinished Draven Tower, a construction project that had been stalled for years due to lack of funds. It was a skeleton of steel and concrete rising high above the Hudson River, exposed to the wind and the elements. Victor had sent the terms via an encrypted message. The deed to the Kincaid estate, in exchange for the journal. Come alone. If I see police, the book burns. Emma stood on the 40th floor, the wind whipping her trench coat around her legs. The city lights twinkled below, indifferent to the drama unfolding in the sky. You actually came, Victor's voice echoed from the shadows of a concrete pillar. He stepped out, holding the blue notebook in one hand and the gun in the other. He looked manic, his hair windswept, his eyes feverish with triumph. I want the book, Victor, Emma said, her voice steady. She held up a thick manila envelope. Here is the deed, signed and notarized. The land is yours. Victor laughed, a harsh, grating sound. You Kincaids, always so honorable. You really thought I'd let you live after this? You've seen too much, Emma. You and your new husband. Augustin isn't here, Emma lied. He wanted to call the FBI. I told him, I just wanted my life back. Smart girl. Victor moved closer. Put the envelope on the ground. Kick it to me. Emma did as she was told. She slid the envelope across the dusty concrete. Victor kept the gun trained on her heart as he bent down to retrieve it. You know, Victor said, standing up and tucking the envelope into his jacket. Your father begged. That night, he wasn't worried about the house. He was screaming for you. Emma! Emma! It was pathetic. Tears pricked Emma's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. He was a good man, something you will never be. I am a rich man, Victor corrected, and history is written by the rich. He raised the gun. Goodbye, Emma. Give my regards to your parents. Click. The sound of a hammer striking an empty chamber echoed loudly in the wind. Victor frowned. He pulled the trigger again. Click. Problem with your hardware? A voice boomed from the darkness above. Victor looked up. Perched on a steel beam 15 feet above them was Augustin King. He dropped down, landing with a heavy thud that shook the floor. How? Victor stammered, backing away. You really should pay your mercenaries better, Augustin said, stalking toward him. Your driver? He prefers my payroll. He switched the magazine in your weapon while you were busy gloating about your master plan. Victor threw the gun at Augustin and scrambled backward, fumbling for a lighter in his pocket. He held the journal up. Stay back. I'll burn it. I swear I'll burn it. Go ahead, Emma said calmly. Victor paused, confused. Emma reached into her coat and pulled out her phone. We've been live streaming for the last 5 minutes, Victor. The camera is in my button. You just confessed to murdering my parents to a live audience of about 3 million people. Victor's face went white. He looked at the phone, then at the journal, then at the edge of the building. The sound of sirens began to wail from the streets, below a chorus of justice rising to meet him. No, Victor whispered. No. He lunged for Emma, a desperate feral animal, but he never reached her. A figure tackled him from the side. It was Liam. Liam had followed them, sneaking up the stairwell, while Augustin positioned himself above. He slammed into Victor, knocking the older man to the ground. The two men grappled in the dust. Victor was older, but he was fueled by madness. He punched Liam in the throat, scrambling to get back up. He grabbed a loose metal pipe from the floor and swung it. It connected with Liam's shoulder with a sickening crunch. Liam cried out, collapsing. Victor turned to run, but Augustine was there. Augustin didn't use a weapon. He didn't need one. He delivered a single, devastating right hook to Victor's jaw. Victor spun around and hit the ground, unconscious, before he even landed. Augustin immediately went to Emma, pulling her into a crushing embrace. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? I'm fine, Emma said, burying her face in his chest. I'm fine. She pulled away and looked at Liam. He was clutching his shoulder, his face gray with pain. Emma knelt beside him. Liam? Why did you do that? Liam looked up at her, a sad, crooked smile on his face. I owed you one, he grunted, for the coupons. 3 months had passed since the night on the tower, and the New York City skyline looked different to Emma. The gray, oppressive winter had finally broken, washing the city clean with an early spring rain that left the streets glistening under the morning sun. From the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, the world didn't look like a battlefield anymore. It looked like a kingdom. Emma sat at her vanity, the morning light catching the facets of the diamond earrings she was fastening. They were heirlooms, part of the Kincaid estate returned to her after the trial, but they felt different now. Heavy with history, yes, but no longer a burden. She stared at her reflection. The woman looking back wasn't the terrified creature in the blue velvet dress who had tried to blend into the wallpaper at the charity gala. This woman had steel in her spine and fire in her eyes. You're staring, a deep voice murmured. Emma smiled as Augustin stepped into the frame of the mirror behind her. He was already dressed in a charcoal suit that fit his broad shoulders to perfection, his hands resting gently on her shoulders. I'm just trying to recognize her, Emma admitted softly, reaching up to cover his hand with hers. For so long, I was Liam's wife. Then I was the runaway heiress. Today I'm just Emma. Today, Augustin corrected, leaning down to press a kiss to the curve of her neck. "You are the CEO of the Kincaid Group," giving her first exclusive interview. "You are the woman who took down a titan of corruption." Emma turned in her chair to face him. The playfulness faded, replaced by a somber gratitude. "Is it really over, Xander? Victor? Victor Draven is currently being processed at a maximum security facility in upstate New York," Augustin said, his voice grim but satisfied. 3 consecutive life sentences. The evidence in those journals, combined with the live stream confession, buried him. He will never hurt you, or anyone else, ever again. Emma let out a breath she felt she had been holding for 10 years. And Liam? The name hung in the air between them, complex and heavy. Augustin sighed, walking over to the window to adjust his cufflinks. The district attorney was conflicted. Liam was an accomplice to your misery for years, and he certainly conspired with Victor initially, but he also took a lead pipe to the shoulder that was meant for you. Augustin turned back, his expression softening. He testified fully. He gave them everything on Victor's illegal real estate dealings. So he's free? Legally, yes. He got probation and a mandate for community service, Augustin explained. But socially, professionally, he's finished in this city. I made some calls this morning. He's moved back to Ohio, to his hometown. Emma raised an eyebrow. What is he doing? He's managing a mid-sized electronics store in a strip mall, Augustin said, a hint of dry amusement in his tone. He's selling toasters and troubleshoot cable boxes. It's honest work, humbling work. I think it's exactly what he needs. He's starting from the bottom, without the lies. Emma nodded slowly. It was a fitting end. Liam hadn't been destroyed, but he had been stripped of the pretense he loved so much. Maybe, just maybe, stripped of the ambition that had poisoned him, he would find the person he used to be before the greed took over. We should go, Emma said, standing up and smoothing the skirt of her cream-colored power suit. The world is waiting. The ride down the private elevator was silent, a moment of calm before the storm. Augustin held her hand the entire way, his thumb stroking her knuckles, a silent promise that whatever lay outside those doors, she wouldn't face it alone. When the heavy glass doors of the Kincaid building opened, the noise was instantaneous, but it wasn't the vicious, predatory, chaotic shouting of the tabloid press she had feared. It was a roar of anticipation. The paparazzi were there, yes, but so were regular people, supporters, onlookers, those who had followed the saga of the librarian billionaire. As they stepped onto the sidewalk, flashbulbs popped in a rhythmic strobe, but the shouting was respectful. "Mrs. King, over here. Mr. King, just one smile." They moved toward the waiting car, a united front, but a reporter from a major network managed to lean over the velvet rope, thrusting a microphone forward. "Mrs. King, Mrs. King, just one question," the reporter called out, breathless. "You went from being called background noise by your ex-husband to running one of the largest conglomerates in the world. What is your advice for women who feel like they are being overlooked, who feel like they are invisible?" Emma paused. She could have kept walking. The security team was already opening the car door, but she stopped. She looked directly into the camera lens, thinking of every coupon she had clipped, every insult she had swallowed, and the fire that had eventually forged her. She squeezed Augustin's hand one last time, then stepped forward to the microphone. The crowd went hushed. "My advice," Emma said, her voice clear and carrying over the city noise, "is to cherish that invisibility. Use it. When people overlook you, they don't see you coming. They don't see you growing." She smiled, and it was a smile that dazzled more than the diamonds in her ears. Remember that diamonds are created under pressure. Being overlooked is a superpower. It gives you time to learn, to prepare, and to sharpen your edges. And when the time is right, you don't just step into the light, you become the light. Augustin watched her, his chest swelling with a pride so fierce it almost hurt. And, Emma added, a mischievous glint in her eye as she glanced back at the building that now bore her name, "Never, ever underestimate a librarian." She turned and slipped into the back seat of the Rolls-Royce. Augustin followed, the heavy door thudding shut and sealing out the noise of the world. As the car pulled away, merging into the stream of Manhattan traffic, Emma didn't look back at the crowd. She looked at her husband, then out at the endless stretch of avenue ahead of them. The rearview mirror showed only the empty street behind them. The past was gone, burned away by truth and time. The future was a blank page, unwritten and vast, and for the first time in her life, Emma held the pen. And that is the incredible story of Emma and Augustin King. From a heartbroken woman in a coffee shop to a titan of industry taking down her parents' killer, Emma proved that true worth isn't about what you wear or who you know, it's about the strength of your character. Liam Bennett chased the appearance of wealth and lost everything, while Augustin King recognized the true treasure standing right in front of him. If you enjoyed this story of revenge, romance, and justice, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. What do you think? Did Liam deserve a second chance? Or should he have gone to prison with Victor? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.